I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Robert Cruz. Okay? I'm being serious. My name is Robert. I grew up in the Joliet area. My parents are from Pilsen. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll tell you what I want to do. Parents grew up in Pilsen. Dad's a United States Marine Corps veteran. Hoorah! But my mom comes from a family where everybody is adopted. My grandma couldn't have kids, so she told all the girls in the neighborhood, if you find yourself in a position that you would think about having an abortion, don't do it. Give me your babies, and I'll raise them. She did it 7 times, and my mom's the youngest, so which means she's the spoiled one, right? So when people say, Robert, what do you think about pro-life? My answer is, I'm alive. I'm living the position. Talk is cheap to me. What are you doing? That's what matters to me. That's all I care about. I love to hear what you have to say, but I want to know what you're doing. So my grandma stepped up and did something, and that's my position. So we're going to step up with adoption, awareness. We're going to grab kids that you find in your organization. We're going to find them somewhere to live a good, comfortable life where they can grow up and not be tortured, terrorized, or harvested. Adoption awareness is the key to pro-life people. Because if you're saying don't have an abortion and you're not giving them another answer, then aren't you part of the problem? What are you supposed to do? So I want to raise adoption awareness. Number 2, growing up in Joliet, similar to the south side of Chicago, certain areas, you got 2 choices: drugs, alcohol, gangs, or sports. I chose sports, if you can't tell. Okay? But when I'm playing sports, the people that are hovering around our fields are law enforcement officers. Do we have any law enforcement people in this room today? No? That's okay. Everywhere I go, I tell every person that is involved in law enforcement, when I become your senator, you looked out for me as a kid, now I'm going to look out for you as a senator. Growing up in my neighborhood, you were either a Catholic school boy or public school. What do you think I chose? Chose Catholic school boy, right? I ended up going on to a high school called Providence Catholic High School. I don't look like Brett Favre, but I did quarterback a bunch of teams to the state championship. We never lost a game in high school. Okay? And the only reason why I bring this up is because I don't like to lose. But that doesn't come... I didn't go. I paid for everything at Providence. I don't know what you're talking about, but that didn't happen in 1993.
Back in the 70s and 80s, they were going around to PB football games, and they were.
Well, then why don't you tell them to send some credits to me so I can pay back my mom for refinancing her house 5 times so I can go to private school? Because we didn't get anything.
We don't need public schools teaching what they're teaching.
So, the only reason why I bring this up is because winning was done in the summer times at 6 in the morning when I'm 15 years old, going to practice, working out at 6 in the morning, and then coming back to school in the afternoon and working. We outworked everybody. We weren't the best team. We only had a few kids that went on to the next level. But we have 5 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. We got 3 CFOs. We got 500 small business owners. Because we went to work. Not because we talked the talk, because we walked the walk. And, of course, when you go to Catholic school, you learn that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, as He is mine. But the last thing I learned was, how do we deal with adversity? When adversity strikes, like it did in 2020 with COVID, we find out what your character's like, who you really are. Not who you were, not who you want to be, but who you really are. Right? And we found out that our elected leaders in Illinois lack character. Do they not? They told us to hide in the corner and wait for someone to figure out the answers. While other states stepped up, went back to work, went back to school, went back to what their lives were like. And instead, we didn't. So I feel like we lack character in our state, which is one of the reasons why I'm running. After that, went to school, college for 1 year at Millikan University, went out to University of Dubuque, but I had to come back early. As I mentioned earlier, my dad was a Marine Corps veteran, but he struggled with something that everybody in this room knows somebody that struggled with. It's called mental health or undiagnosed PTSD. There's not a person in this room that doesn't have a family member or a friend that doesn't struggle with some kind of depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, you name it. We all have somebody. And we're the driving force behind the end of slavery, behind the women's right to vote, by the 14th Amendment, the Gilded Age. How come we never talk about this? It's the root cause of all the problems. When you ask a police officer, what are you doing on the weekends? Oh, I'm going to some guy who's not all there. And now I don't know what to deal with him. If I put my hands on him, they're going to call, they're going to put it on TV. So we have to address mental health as a party. We have to. It's the root cause of all human disruption. So my first job, got out of college, corporate America, wasn't for me. Entrepreneurial spirit. Worked in construction. Been doing that for 17 years. But then in June of 2011, June 14th, 10:36 p.m., I heard the 3 words nobody wants to hear. Robert, actually 4 words. Robert, you have cancer. You have leukemia. And if you leave and come back outpatient, you got a 50-50 chance of living, or if you stay and do this new treatment, it's 70-30. So as a good Catholic schoolboy, I got on my knees and I begged. I begged for my life. And I made one promise, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. I told Jesus, if you save me from this fate, I will not waste my life. I won't sit on the couch and watch other people do stuff and complain about it. I'll get in the game. Whatever it is you want me to do. Next day, felt 100 times better, was out 2 weeks later. So then I felt like it was my turn. To pay back the deal. So I volunteered my time to an organization called Immerman's Angels, Cancer Survivor Group. Very passionate about it because I wanted to talk to people and show them you can do it too. Right? Don't feel sorry for yourself. Get up. Give your best effort because you're going to walk out of here smiling with your eyes because you only come out 2 ways. You're either walking out of here smiling or they're carrying you out of here. You don't get it. There's no middle ground. But then I met a woman, I think she was in her mid to late 60s, that changed my entire perspective on everything. Beat cancer twice on her 3rd cancer. I walk in, I give her the pep talk like I'm talking right now, loud kind of, and she goes, I'm not today, Robert. I just got a bill for $200,000. I'm PPO, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I have to pay 70% of this bill if I want to live. And I thought, excuse my French, this is some straight bullshit right here. Right? You work your whole life, 40 years. You pay off your mortgage. You get a 401k. And then they tell you, oh, here's the bill, give me $140,000. Then she tells me, in front of her daughter, oh, it's easier if I just die. And I told her, no. I told her this lesson I learned as a kid. A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. And if you quit, then one day when adversity comes for your granddaughter, she's going to say, it's okay to quit too, because my grandma did, and can you live with that? And of course the answer was no. We cried for 20 minutes, and I left. And I was upset. Told my mom, somebody should do something about this. And she said, well, the person who would have to do something would have to go to Congress and change the law. Is that going to happen? And I went, could. Why not? So then I started getting involved in politics. Started going to meetings, meeting people. I worked on 2 campaigns. I worked with Jim Oberweis. I worked with Mike Frizzalone in the 2020 campaign. I started a group. And as I'm learning, watching and running around, I started noticing those Democrats that we're walking away from, they found a good way to position us, to paint us in a picture. And it was out of touch, it was old, it was white, and it was racist. But then when I would go to places, there's none of those people there. There was different people, Hispanics like myself, black people, Asian people. And I thought, this isn't what we are. How do we break the mold? So I started a group called GOP Jamboree, where we started throwing parties and concerts to attract younger people, to attract people who want to have fun. So they couldn't call us that anymore. And we threw up a concert in phase 2 of COVID. The Will County Sheriff told Pritzker we're not shutting it down, and we had 1,500 people show up. And I'm proud of it. So then I was approached by a group after that happened, and it being a small business owner, they said, have you ever heard of this new thing that's coming out? It's called the Fair Tax Amendment. You ever heard of it? Yeah. And I said, well, shit. No, but let me look at it. Start reading the pamphlet. They want to raise taxes on all small business owners during a pandemic? I mean, what history books are they reading? So they asked me to do a commercial. I did 3 commercials. I was the guy at the end that said, vote no against the Fair Tax Amendment. Right? So then I went on the mailer. It went out to 4 million people. And we won that vote before the mail-ins came in, 57 to 43. Now we all know the mail-ins are fake. Let's not pretend that they're not. Okay? So we won 57 to 43. Then they shared the data. 44.9% of us live and work for small business. That means they all voted no. And then 13% joined the fray. So people say, how are you going to win, Robert? No one's ever heard of you before. Well, that's the first key, is get behind our small business owners. Let's start voting no to Tammy Duthler. Vote no to Lori Lightfoot. Vote no to J.B. Pritzker. And get behind our business owners, because that's what rallied the troops. Higher tax burdens, taxing the small businesses. So after that I thought, you got to do something else. You can't just do that. You got to run for an office, right? Started looking around what was coming down the pipe. So I ran for a school board position in Cook County, in Oak Lawn, and I won. And I chose school board because now we're seeing CRT and sex education. I don't want my daughter learning that. She's going into junior high for the first time. If someone's going to talk to my daughter about that stuff, it's going to be her mother. Okay? So here's my focus, and I'm learning as I go. Right? I see 2 things that are weak. All right, let's talk about our weaknesses. 1, our volunteer effort is trash. It's garbage. Okay, let's not pretend like it is, because it is. So we're going to start a message called the Volunteer Challenge. I challenge all the walkaway Democrats to get involved in somebody's campaign. Choose a candidate you like, that you'll go to bat for, that you'll go to work for. Because when I go and walk out and see people walking my neighborhood, because Maureen Newman was the congressman in my area, I saw 30, 40 people a weekend. And I saw nobody from Mike Frizzalone. Nobody. 0. And she had 30, 40 a weekend, hitting the same neighborhoods over and over and over again. So I thought the effort was beyond poor. It's a 0 in class. So we got to work on our volunteers. So how many people have volunteered to be a poll watcher or an election judge in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many people are in this room?
How many are what?
30, 40?
42.
42? That's less than 20%. Are we really that upset? Because if we were, we would go and do these things. So I say this with all genuine in my heart. Step up. Get out of your comfort zones. Go be an election judge. Go step up and be a poll watcher. Go be somebody's door knocker. I don't care who it's for. It doesn't have to be for me. It doesn't have to be for Christine. Do it for somebody. Because that stuff will get contagious. Right? Could you imagine a place where we had our own volunteer army and Republicans were getting elected, or middle of the road people getting elected, and there was no more CRT. There is no more sex education. The taxes actually came down and your property values went up. Could you imagine a place like that? Where people actually wanted to live in Illinois, because Chicago's probably one of the greatest cities in this country, but it doesn't feel like it now. Could you imagine that? I know it sounds far-fetched. I know it does. When I say it in my head, it sounds far-fetched. But the truth is, if we all stepped up, like we're doing tonight, showing up, then it could be a reality. Okay? And then the last thing I'll leave you with this. Nothing ever got done great in this world without enthusiasm, without effort. If you're not willing to give those 2 things, then I don't have any answers for you. You could ask me a million questions, and I could tell you everything you want to hear. But if you don't give me something back, then it's irrelevant. We're just talking on the phone, and you'll forget about it tomorrow. So if you leave anywhere from this message tonight, it's step up. Step out of your comfort zone. Find a candidate you like. Do something. I'm not telling you to be Frederick Douglass or Abraham Lincoln tomorrow. But step out. Do one weekend of door knocking over the next 18 months. Share something for a candidate. Spend a little time at some of their fundraisers. Tell people the underground, because we're not going to win this with Republicans in the state because there's not enough. It has to come from the middle people, the walk-away people, and the people who are tired of what's happened. That's how we're going to get it back to normal. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.